flavor and functionality in CBD. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Jim Eldering and Alina Slotnik. Let's go.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for staying. As I understand it, we are the only thing standing between you, some adult beverages, and some awards. So we are going to make it quick and good. We wanted to talk to you today about something we're super excited about, the magic of mushrooms. Mushrooms are all magical, but not all of them are psychedelic. We'll talk about what the differences are and how the magic of mushrooms can really help transform flavor and function in all kinds of CBD, hemp, Delta-8 and Delta-9 products. We're really excited to talk to you about that today. Oh yeah, clicker, that'd be good. So you're probably wondering, who's MycoTechnology? What do we know about all this anyway? Why are we here talking to you about magic mushrooms? We should just be handing some out. We're a Denver-based innovation startup. We've been around for about 8 years. We're doing some really cool innovation-forward technology that helps in flavors, in proteins, and in mushroom adaptogens. Our expertise is really mushrooms and fermentation. So you guys, all you need to do is look around a little bit and you'll figure out that mushrooms are pretty hot. A lot of consumers are really engaging and finally discovering the magic of mushrooms and not just the psychoactive kind. There's a lot of health benefits in mushrooms, and we really understand how to choose and cultivate exactly the right ones. But our expertise is not in the mushroom that grows above the ground, it's in the roots of the mushrooms that grow below it. So we take mushrooms and their roots, and we use fermentation, a bit like the kind that is in beer. We marry those things up, and we create ingredients that make a lot of edibles and beverages better. So what I want to explain, though, what's important is this isn't really a bunch of chemicals. We're really rooted in what happens in nature, figuring out how that works, and leveraging that for the purpose of making foods more flavorful and functional. So this is a completely natural process that we're going to talk about. We think that it has exciting opportunities for people in the CBD world that are trying to produce the best possible product in terms of the impact, the health impact it can have, and the flavor and the delight that it can deliver to consumers, because at the end of the day, consumers have to love something and not just kind of buy it with their brain and hope that it works well. So we're really trying to marry those two things together. Fundamentally, this is about putting nature back in natural. We're all about leveraging what nature does, creating some innovation around it, and putting it into product. So everybody who's walked the show today probably already knows this. Edibles are booming. So everything that people, it's really, it's no secret why. A lot of consumers really want things that are more accessible, that are maybe more portion controlled, and what you're seeing is enormous growth in edibles, all kinds of edibles, gummies, chocolates, various other forms, and that growth is actually coming from a lot of inhalables. But really, what's driving the popularity of great edibles? When you look across the market and you actually analyze all of the really high-end 5-star reviews, what you see is 43% of those reviews mention flavor as a big driver of why they purchased or why they bought again. So flavor is really an incredibly important component in securing consumer interest and keeping their loyalty. So if you want to sell stuff to CBD consumers, flavor is key. You really bear that out in the negative reviews too. If you look at the 1-star reviews, amazingly, they also mention flavor. Just the fact that they're really disappointed in it. So just as a show of hands, who here at the show today ate something with CBD that didn't taste very good? Let's be honest. We talk about flavor all the time, and a lot of it is not great. CBD is hard. Delta-8 is hard, Delta-9 is hard to formulate with. They have very particular flavor profiles, and when you're trying to make something that tastes accessible and delightful to one driver of purchase intent is taste. It's not the dosage that's in the CBD, it's actually flavor. So that's a really important thing to bear in mind as you guys are making the edible that's going to crush the market. So it's hard enough to make edibles that taste great and beverages that taste great and tinctures that people are going to enjoy taking and are going to make part of their routine. What makes this even harder is what's happening in the market. So it's not only just edibles that have the active of CBD or Delta-8, Delta-9, some combination. Now we're taking the game up a notch because one of the 4 biggest growth areas of CBD is in sports nutrition. You can see from this data here, which is from KPMG, the actual growth of sports nutrition style products. So these are things like supplements and bars and protein shakes, etc. in the CBD market is in the top 4 growth areas across all of them. So across all of the growth of the CBD market, it's in the top 4 places to grow. And actually, if you look at the net growth of sports nutrition, it's projected to add about $12 million in growth between this year and 2027. And that's about as much as all of over-the-counter will grow in total. So even though over-the-counter is a bigger slice of the market today, sports nutrition is growing so fast that the net growth, the net dollar growth in sports nutrition is equal to over-the-counter. That's pretty compelling. So all that does is make the job of formulating something really amazing even harder. Because now you're talking about CBD or Delta-8, Delta-9, and you're talking about plant proteins, BCAAs, you're talking about caffeine or some energy source, and all of these things, honestly, don't taste good. So the job of formulators and the people who are making exceptional products for consumers gets even harder. And, you know, because I'm not in the business of just throwing out problems and not giving you any solutions, I'm going to bring up our amazing Chief Product Officer to talk about the technology that's going to help you overcome these challenges.
All right. Thanks, Alina. Very good. Yeah, she gets to give you all the numbers, and I get to talk about the technology. So I get the fun part, actually. So really, Alina already kind of expounded on the fact that we work in mushroom fermentation. Everybody knows about fermentation, right? About 70% of the calories that we eat come from fermented foods. But most people don't think of bread and cheese or things like that as fermented. You know, there's kombucha, kefir, and things like that. But we work in mushroom fermentation, which is very, very different than that type of fermentation. Mushrooms are a completely different guy. So as Alina also said, we work in the root system, if you will. It's not really the root system, the mycelia of a mushroom. Here's a depiction of it. So we never really see a mushroom in our manufacturing facility, unless somebody brings it in for lunch. We work in the bottom half of it, where the almost invisible mycelia lives and breathes and does all of its enzymatic magic on whatever substrate we give to it. We were talking about natural, which is very, very important to us. We just try to wrap stainless steel around nature. So really everything that we do starts with a bunch of different species of mushroom spores that we have that we keep genetically pristine in our manufacturing, in our facility. We have over 50 varieties to choose from. We only choose 3 or 4. We're going to talk about one specific one today called Cordyceps sinensis, which is an absolutely amazing parasitic species of fungi. Everything we start with starts in a flask, 5 liters or less. That's where we begin all of our fermentations to make sure that the mushroom we're using, its metabolic processes are pointed in the direction we need it to be to do the things we want to do as we scale it up into our 90,000 liter tanks. So we ferment a great deal of different substrates. We make a lot of different products. Today we'll talk about some fruits and vegetables we ferment to get a biotransform ingredient which becomes our flavor clarification system, among other things. I mentioned Cordyceps sinensis. I don't know if anyone's familiar with this. You should YouTube it and take a look at it. What you see here is mostly caterpillar and only a little bit of mushroom. This is the mushroom here. But generally you get it delivered to you on the caterpillar so that you can verify its authenticity. This is a material that would cost you $20,000 a kilo approximately if you wanted it. It's called Himalayan gold. It's really only found on your hands and knees in the Tibetan plateau. We're lucky to have what's called an anamorph of this species that we work with Penn State University to get, because everybody can functionally work with Cordyceps militaris. The Cordyceps sinensis has a very, very different fermentation. Again, I mentioned at MycoTechnology, in our company, we have an arsenal of options to work with in terms of mushrooms. We're going to talk a little bit about adaptogenics at the last bit of this, because that probably has some application in CBDs. Right now, we're talking about how to mitigate flavor, and that's one of the things that cordyceps does very well. But we have this whole array of mushrooms of immortality that all have different functional properties. Today, we're talking about cordyceps sinensis. So how does it work? So what we do is we brew. We're making beer. We're taking cordyceps sinensis, feeding it the things it needs. It doesn't intake sugars or things like that inside to make alcohol and carbon dioxide. It actually goes out into its environment, seeks out to use its enzymes to create the food source it needs. So when it does that, it leaves behind some secondary metabolites that we grab and capture for what we need. The one that we grab here, it actually works really well on your tongue. It interacts with the individual taste receptors on your tongue for bitter. So the compounds that come out of this actually block the taste from being perceived by in your oral cavity. What that allows the other taste receptors to do is kind of be heightened. There's this kind of highway to your brain, right, a neural highway to your brain, that when you're blocking the bitter receptors, the other ones have more space in that neural cavity, so it really brings out some of the other flavors. So we talk about CBD flavor and the terpenes that you get with some THCs, alkaloids, things like that are very easy for us to take the edge off those and take them out of the system. So really, we have done loads of studies, about 26 actually receptors, one's latent, but 25 of the receptors on your tongue are made for the alkaloid portion are bitter, and we occupy and interact 18 of them. So literally as this stuff is going over your mouth, it's sticking into a receptor to allow the bitter flavors to go through. So that allows a lot, right? There's a great deal of things you can do with that then. I have an application staff on my team. We've worked with all kinds of different products, including CBDs, and found our way around some really hard, difficult taste propositions. And so one of the things that we say here is, it's not only when you take the bitter out does it change the impact of the flavor, aromatics, the impact on your oral cavity in terms of texture, and fully an optimized product can come out the other side of this when we're working it through. So it's a very, very critical thing to, each CBD is different. We all know that. We've been around walking and tasting today, and they all have a little bit different characteristics. So to optimize that, we have a system in which that can be done. I'll throw a few slides at you here just to showcase some of the sensory work we do. We actually work internally on our own sensory, but we have third-party sensory. Here you see a classic case of a CBD gummy control, where you have a high bitterness, and then you see with the use of our material, which by the way, we're right over there. You can come over and check it out. This is actually one of the demos we're doing, but you can see here how the fruitiness is increased and the overall bitterness is significantly decreased in this system. So it's a very, very important fact that, to Alina's point, people are driven to taste, they come back for taste, right? We know there's great nutritional impact to the CBDs and the THCs we have, but this is going to make them come back again. They're not going to keep trying other ones. They're going to repeat buying your products. We also talked about sports nutrition. It's coming, guys. It's coming. A lot of CBDs, a lot of athletes, prime athletes are using both CBD and THC forms. And again, there's great reasons for that. But also they're looking for other aspects of it. They're putting protein and BCAAs and other things in. Here we showcase how we can mitigate the aftertaste of even those types of compounds, up to and including the sweeteners you may be using. If it's a stevia-based sweetener or a lager-side sweetener, we can take the edge off those as well. So obviously broad impact from this, and here we're talking about something that comes from mushroom-based beer. Spray-dried mushroom-based beer. So as simple as it gets, mushroom extract. Looks great on your label, doesn't it? Not only are we working on flavor clarification, but we're doing a lot of other work around adaptogenics. I talked to you about the mushrooms from mortality. They're all loaded up, really doing so well. We don't have to grow the mushroom. Mushrooms in mortality are very difficult to grow. People are doing it and doing it really well. I don't disparage them in any way. But we actually don't need to see the fruiting body. We actually get it out of the mycelia of these mushrooms in our liquid state fermentation. So these are just some of the compounds for cordyceps sinensis as an adaptogen. There you see ergolthionine, beta-glucans, adenosine, and ergosterol. Very, very advantageous compounds that would work very well to differentiate yourself in the CBD world from your competitors. So it's a fantastic space. We're doing a load of research. science is catching up now to holistic medicine that's been around for thousands of years. So it's actually a very exciting time. So really, as kind of a synopsis, here's our little cordyceps again. But we're more than just a flavor modulator, really. This mushroom extract is super clean label, super natural process, great sustainability story, made in the USA, all natural and organic, and a great addition to drive the differentiation in the products that you make. So we're right over there, wave from over there. Go see us. We've actually got some great prototypes to showcase and a lot more information to share. So thank you very much. We're a little under time. Great. Thank you. That's it.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, again, put your hands together for Jim Aldering and Alina Slotnik. That was honestly super great. It was informative and gave us what we needed to understand about the magic of